No sooner did our friend Jose Vega, speaking of France, he's over there now. No sooner did our friend Jose Vega hear that, you know what? Those guys over at Due Dissidence, they might be an op, but they could be onto something with this run as a Democrat and just run as an independent if they screw you thing.
Right.
And so he announced that he's going to run in the Democratic primary. Literally the next day, everyone and their cousin started to jump into that primary. Now, you want to talk about an op? That looks like an op. Speaking of which, Michael Blake looks like an op. This guy, one day it's a genocide in Gaza, the next day it's not. The next day it's a genocide, the next day it's not. Torres challenger attacks Israel AIPAC in campaign launch, but previously sought pro-Israel allies extensively. Now, this is a special report by one of the best researchers on the interwebs, Gen X Girl. So Gen X Girl actually brought this story to us and put all of this together. Michael Blake, a former New York State Assemblyman and 8th place finishing New York City mayoral candidate, announced a primary challenge to Representative Ritchie Torres on Wednesday, focused squarely on Torres's support for Israel and ties to AIPAC. But Blake himself has an extensive history with AIPAC and was, at least through 2020, a vocal supporter of the Jewish state. In his campaign announcement on X, Blake said, quote, "I am ready to fight for you and lower your cost of living while Ritchie fights for a genocide." So what did he just go to Jose's website and copy that down? "I will focus on affordable housing and books, as Ritchie will only focus on AIPAC and Bibi," a reference to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. "I will invest in the community. Ritchie invests in bombs." Now, this guy is run for everything. It almost seems like that's his job. They send him in to be a spoiler in these different elections. He went up in the debates, and I think they were trying to suck away some of the Mamdani vote by having him attack Cuomo. He was trying to pull in some of that vote. So here's a little bit about him on New York One, which is kind of the local news here on cable.
Campaign between Torres, a progressive Democrat who backs Israel, and Blake, a progressive Democrat who used to back Israel.
I have a responsibility to support America's friend and ally, Israel.
That's Blake in 2017, then a state assemblyman, speaking to AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, the U.S.-based lobbying group. Blake's Instagram account is full of pictures from his 2014 AIPAC-sponsored trip to Israel, even posting, at the time, this photo in praise of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Blake says he hasn't changed. He still supports the state of Israel, but it's AIPAC and Israel's government that has changed.
The AIPAC of today is not the AIPAC of yesterday, and it is time for us to make a change, and that is one of the reasons why I'm running.
The majority Hispanic district covers the largely Jewish neighborhood of Riverdale.
No, it seems very much like the AIPAC of yesterday. I don't think AIPAC has changed. I think your assignment has changed. I think your marching orders have changed. I think there's apparently you can make a living being a perpetual loser if you're willing to let the DNC deploy you strategically for their purposes. You can go be a pretend candidate.
Dale, Baychester to the east, down to Morrisania in the South Bronx. Blake in 2020 ran and lost a race for that seat and has run for multiple offices since then, most recently for mayor.
Yeah, so all this guy does is enter races that he's going to lose. And this seems to be with some larger purpose that he's being directed for. We can only speculate, but that's kind of how it looks. So here's the campaign ad that he cut, which really took some pair of balls for somebody with this history with AIPAC and Israel.
And as I was living in these slum conditions, the city was spending more than $100 million on a golf course.
Ritchie Torres invested in weapon makers.
Was just exposed for secretly investing in genocide.
All these things I'm seeing about Ritchie Torres.
Since 2021, Ritchie Torres has represented New York's 15th congressional district, the poorest congressional district in America. In 2025, Ritchie has nearly $15 million on hand, largely from AIPAC. while many of his constituents barely have $15 to get by. So he spent the last 15 days hearing from the people about why they are ready for a change.
I saw Ritchie Torres on Adam Friedland. I know he suffered, but what happens to you is you get bought. Yep. It is so hard to keep your moral integrity once you start taking the money.
He profited from it.
He talks about that place far more often than he talks about the Bronx.
You were criticized for Blackstone donation, the architects of the housing crisis.
What a asshole.
You cannot be a representative in the city of New York and you talk like that.
Ritchie Torres sucks.
Not as long as
Ritchie Torres is a white motherfucker.
Richie Torres cares more about BB than he cares about the Bronx. More about AIPAC than he does about your academics. So you want to stay with someone who only wants to care about himself? Or do you want to have someone in me and Michael Blake who actually wants to care for the people? I'm reimagining what the city can look like. I'm named after Jamaican prime ministers, Michael Manley, Alexander Bustamante. Grew up Creston and Burnside. Remember the days back in the day when you go to Woolworths to go shop, skate key, go kick it.
Whose track record has spoken for itself for years.
So when we think about why elect me, think about cost of living and affordability.
We can give people a better chance.
Think about a new vision when it comes to education.
I rolled out an extensive education plan.
And lastly, show the vision of how we can bring real change to the district. It is time for us to tell Ritchie Torres that he can go on his own way. And it's time for change, and it's time for a new day.
Mm-hmm. Remember when you used to go shopping at Woolworths, and there was no organization to it? They had drawers and drawers and drawers of thread. That's what New Yorkers need.
Yeah.
Remember that? When you go to Woolworths and you couldn't find anything, but they had drawers and drawers and drawers of thread, and then you'd go get an egg cream. That's what we need in New York.
Yeah.
Noah Tishby, Zionist maniac. Noah Tishby took some exception to this ad. Michael Blake, who's running against Ritchie Torres for Congress, just released a video featuring Guy Christensen, the influencer who justified the murder of Israeli embassy staffers at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. just months ago, to which Guy responded, Ritchie Torres sent the Capitol Police to harass me, claiming my criticism of his genocidal corruption was a threat. He invests in genocide, smeared me in the New York Post. I blame Ritchie for killing more Palestinians and trying to cripple our aid distributions on the ground of Gaza. But that's not really the relevant part. This is what a scumbag Michael Blake is. This guy supports Jose.
Yeah, he endorsed Jose.
No more AIPAC millionaires support Jose Vega. That's Jose's handle on X. So yeah, what a slimy scumbag. So a little bit more here from Jewish Insider. Social media posts by Blake and others show that he was for years a frequent attendee at AIPAC events, having attended no less than 10 of the organization's events between 2014 and 2019, and was a featured speaker at least once. Blake traveled to Israel with AIEF and with the New York Jewish Community Relations Council. And this is something that he tweeted out in 2015, which actually is pretty sick if you know the history there. Looking out on the Gaza Strip from Kobe Hill with Kobe Harush. Yes, named after him, following an incredible battle. Oh, I'm sure it was incredible, them mowing down these people with rocks using Kalashnikovs. Who is a major in the IDF, a place where President Obama, then senator, once stood. Seeing safe rooms in Sderot. Oh, the place where they torture and grape Palestinian prisoners? Really? Is that part of the tour? Did you go to the IDF fantasy camp after that? Examining old missiles while hearing about safety tactics. My second time to the region and continually learning something new. It's not even his first trip. That's his second. So, I don't know if this is one of the places that they do this, but, they have that cinema, they call it, where Israelis go out with lawn chairs and, drink wine and watch them kill Palestinians there. So here's Michael Blake speaking very differently about Israel in his past career.
Last question before you go, because I think people will want to know how sharp a contrast we're talking about. Would you support a full weapons embargo on Israel?
There should be. I mean,
there we go.
Like
that's he's not sure what script he's supposed to be on right now.
Right.
From entrepreneurship to political organizing to deepening my faith as a Christian, AIPAC and AIEF changed my life forever. Traveling to Israel made me a better legislator, a better activist. It helped me to understand that as a leader within my community and the Democratic Party, I have a responsibility to support America's friend and ally, Israel. And much like Ashley, I recently stepped up into a new role. This past February, I was elected a vice chair of the Democratic National Committee.
As recently as 2020, as a Democratic National Committee vice chair, Blake insisted that the Democratic Party would continue to support Israel, saying of the party platform, quote, "We have been attentive to the previous conversations that have happened in terms of making sure there's not language in there that would be anti-Israel." In a 2020 interview with Jewish Insider, Blake, who posted a photo of Netanyahu speaking at a 2014 AIPAC event, declined to endorse Senator Bernie Sanders' characterization of Netanyahu as a reactionary racist. And he drew parallels between his experience as a black man in the Bronx and the experience of Israeli Jews facing terrorism. Well, that sounds like they would be replacing Ritchie with Ritchie.
Right.
Ritchie did something very similar at a synagogue. Blake also met on various occasions with Israeli officials and diplomats and attended the 2018 Israel Day parade in Manhattan. A pro-Israel activist who requested anonymity in order to speak candidly told JI the pro-Israel community is surprised by his 180-degree reversal. Blake spoke at pro-Israel events and received considerable financial support from the community. Once he proclaimed to be pro-Israel stalwart, and now he has joined the ranks of the detractors. Look, man, I'm not as conspiratorial as my co-host, but I'm saying the anonymous source is a plant making the story look good.
Right.
Blake also downplayed his speech at the 2017 policy conference as having happened 8 years ago, even as he continued to attend AIPAC events for years afterward. So he took great offense. This is back in 2020. The DSA questionnaire for 2021 city council candidates asked them to pledge not to travel to Israel. And this is how he responded. "This is simply outrageous and antiseptic. As a Christian, I visited Israel twice to deepen my faith, policy, and political understanding of the region. Immediately rescind this blatantly offensive question and apologize to all people, not just the Jewish community." And here he is. Okay, so this is very strange. He keeps going back and forth on this. So this is in January. He had called what's happening in Gaza a genocide and then walked it back. "My use of the word genocide was wrong, and I apologize. Albeit unintentional, my misuse of such a powerful word was offensive and hurtful to Jews and many others, especially to my Jewish brothers and sisters who equate the word with the genocide perpetrated by the Nazis during the Holocaust. I do not believe the people of Israel are seeking to eliminate Palestinians." Now, remember, he's setting up to run in the primary as mayor. So he's still in the primaries. This is May. A New York City mayoral candidate whose trajectory from pro to anti-Israel raised eyebrows is once again walking back a position on the conflict, this time to say that he regrets accusing Israel of genocide. Michael Blake said he used wrong language, adding that "we want to be very clear that it was not the people of Israel that did this." Now, I'm sorry. This looks to me like somebody who's not quite sure how to negotiate the script.
Obviously.
It seems like they told him to peel away some of Mamdani's support, but don't actually say the things Mamdani says, because we don't want to build support for the idea that Israel is committing a genocide. So you have to kind of act like you're anti-Israel, but you can't really say the kinds of things Mamdani says. That is how I would explain this very weird back and forth where he's like, it's a genocide. It's not a genocide. It's a genocide. It's not a genocide. Because then on the debate stage, he actually says, he said both sides have to free the hostages. So, of course, he gets attacked. John Podderetz. Michael Blake, NYC mayoral candidate, just said all hostages have to come home on both sides. There are no hostages on both sides. So go F yourself. You were performing well. What does that mean exactly? Because he was pretending to be anti-Israel already. See, they're giving away the game there. You were performing well, but now you've done evil, bad pastor. Rich as a party, who was Cuomo's chief aide. Hostages on both sides, Mike Blake. Hostages on both sides. On both sides. So then again, good evening. I didn't say hostages on both sides. I said that hostages need to come home. Then separately, we need to honor the pain on both sides.
I mean, this is just typical Democrat bullshit.
Yeah, it's Democrat fuckery. Definitely did not say that Israel has hostages. And just to remind you, Israel is holding 3,577 hostages, as we are not shy about calling them.
Yeah, what do you call a child in custody? That's
yeah, of course it's a hostage. I was certainly speaking with speed. He tweeted about this again. The intent there is pain on both sides, never the intent to offend. Certainly Hamas created the chaos. The hostages must come home. And here he is in September when he decides he's going to be the plant, or whoever decided he's going to be the plant to split the anti-Ritchie vote. Genocide is happening in Gaza. He's back here in September. We don't see the full extent because of media blackouts. Yes, anti-Semitism must stop. Yes, Islamophobia must stop. Yes, hostages must be returned. But yes, a genocide is happening. Children and families deserve to live. Faith leaders can't be silent. So this is kind of a pattern. It's like they want him to be anti-Israel in a way that will peel away votes from Mamdani, and now that will peel away votes, I believe, from Jose. But they don't want him to build support for real anti-Zionist positions. That's why you keep getting this weird back and forth where he's not quite sure what he's supposed to say. He keeps saying things that would make him a plausible anti-Zionist, and then he gets a call. No, not like that. And then he has to walk it back.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just typical Democrat bullshit. And, yeah, I mean, he's going to be in the primary field. Obviously, Jose's in. Then DSA is running some guy. I forget who they're running.
Somebody in there. And then isn't there a fourth one? Is there somebody else?
There probably is a fourth one. And look, this is where it really benefits Jose to have that independent line in the general. Because what could end up happening, what I could very easily see happening is, all of these Torres primary challengers split the anti-Torres vote.
Well, that's the intention.
So Torres wins the primary. But then here's the thing. Let's say Torres wins the primary with 45% of the vote because the opposition was split. Well, at that point, Jose is on the ballot in the general.
Right.
And there's a big anti-Torres vote out there, right? If it shakes out that way. And I could easily see it shaking out that way because Torres is very vulnerable, but the opposition is split. So this is where having that independent ballot line could really come in handy. Because if Torres comes out of the primary the victor but weakened by a bruising primary, and then there's one of the guys who was in the primary on the ballot in the general, well, Jose could then consolidate the anti-Torres vote that was in the primary for November. So yeah, I mean, it could shake out that way, but this is very typical Democrat crap. I mean, there's really nothing.
I mean, it's so
new about
obvious this is not an authentic campaign.
No,
look at how he reacted when Ryan Grimm asked him that question.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly trying to figure out what he's supposed to say.
Right.
This is not somebody who has beliefs. This is somebody who's been hired to do a job.
Exactly. No doubt about it. So thanks to Gen X Girl for coming up with that stuff. Appreciate that. Well done.
Thank you.
As always.
Please clap.